So Tiffany, I know you invest a lot in yourself and your business, and I know you're like a part of other programs. What made this experience different for you? What was memorable about it?
Yeah, I can say that this is probably one of my most worthwhile investments that I've done for myself professionally over the last few years for a few reasons. The first is just like the relevancy. I know, Diana, you mentioned this earlier in the session that it was very much like collaboration over competition. And that was one of the things I really sensed in becoming a career coach. One of the pleasant surprises, I guess, was just how supportive everyone was that I came across. It wasn't that we were trying to steal each other's audiences or anything like that. It was just very supportive. And I think being a part of this experience really just took that on steroids, like in terms of being open, being transparent, not holding back on our numbers and our goals and our biggest dreams. It was just this level of transparency and relevancy because we were from the same space that kind of took my reflections to a whole different level. I think another really key differentiator was the in-person element and the immersive aspect of the event. Diana's an incredible planner, so she literally took care of every single detail. None of us had to worry about literally a thing. And the fact that it was this perfect balance of both business, brainstorm, masterminding, but also self-care. I was saying earlier, you're the queen of self-care and something that I still try to prioritize for myself. But it was great to be able to have this almost initiated for us in that event and allowed for some of like my most memorable conversations. Just some of these more informalized moments where you can really just unwind and relax and let the creative juices flow. So I think that was intentionally done. I found for me as a participant, it was really just this perfect balance of like focus, business minded talk, but also just understanding each other at a much deeper level and people that we really admire and respect, vice
Yeah.
versa, right? I'd say the third component was the fact that it was also the environment. There was a lot of careful thought in what you chose to do for this event and other programs that I've been in, mainly virtually driven programs. It just doesn't have the same vibe, right? I mean, there's only so much we can get across through Zoom calls. And this just broke down all of those barriers, right? We were in the most beautiful location, felt extremely safe. We stayed on resort. There was more than enough to do there. And it just created a whole other level of memorability and resonance that's like really
Yeah.
stuck with me since I've come back.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing this. One thing that I shared at the very beginning was that this experience, when you attend, you're not going to be in a conference room. There won't be PowerPoint presentations. It really, the experience is being in an immersive environment in like a VIP lounge area
Yeah.
or a private terrace or a quiet space with a gorgeous view, which really makes it more inspiring and empowering, which that's part of what would make this different than like a something just online there. Can you share a little bit about what the community is like? That's something I get a lot in terms of question is the people, the group. Can you share a little bit about before we came together to then during and then now after what that looks like?
Yeah, yeah, that was such a huge proponent of it, having that community both before, during, and after. So Diana really fostered that community building from the very get-go, from all of us who were signing up, some of us at different times. Not only did we have more of like a WhatsApp community that really allowed us to exchange and get to know each other and our goals and what we were working through already prior to the mastermind, that helped by the time that we got to the mastermind. It wasn't diving into all of those kind of more surface level types of topics. We were able to just like get right into it. And that brought this level of richness and transformation in the experience that I don't think I was expecting, but it happened really fast. And it seemed to be the case for all of the participants. And then even following the event, which was very emotional in many ways for a lot of us, we definitely had some tearful moments. Being able to continue to support each other. We've continued to do collaborations with each other, support in different ways. And it's just really amazing to have this group of powerhouse women who are each doing their own thing in their own way, but where we can really learn from each other. For instance, I did a launch back in June. And, I shared a lot of the insights that I had because I knew some of my fellow participants were going to be doing theirs soon. And I'm like, hey, I just want to share. I tried a lot of different new things. And it just created that kind of platform where I can share more openly, see if I could help someone else in a certain way. And everyone's been very, very supportive and reciprocating in that type of energy. And that wouldn't have been possible without really forming that trust-based community that you did, Diana.
Yeah, one thing that I've been really amazed is how openly people have been transparently sharing with each other in their own lesson, but also the numbers. I think just this week we were sharing our own numbers of our launches, of the revenue, like what's coming in, what's working, what's not working. Like, could you maybe share a little bit in terms of maybe some specific, like, wins or results that you've seen, like that has really influenced the way of thinking, the way of doing things since our mastermind?
Oh yeah. I mean, one of my big takeaways from the mastermind was just being bolder for myself. I kind of came into the mastermind, which took place in April. I was sort of in a transition phase with my business where I was kind of just doing a lot of deeper reflection of what I wanted it to look like, bit of a repackaging, up leveling some of my messaging, the way I wanted to speak to my audience and how that would implicate my program. So it really came at the perfect time because it allowed me to go deeper on a lot of that and many of the conversations. But I was able to like take that back and implement it directly in my next steps, which led to like the best launch that I've ever had, the most type of seamless onboardings of clients that I've ever had, a lot of like cold demand coming in that I had never had. So I think it helped me show up as my best in a lot of micro ways, but also macro ways that I'm seeing translate into the business results. And I'm really grateful for that because I don't think I would have had that same vibe for myself and how I'm showing up prior to that event. And I really do believe that that was like a catalyst that
Mm.
helped give me the trust, the validation, and also see some of my own blind spots that others were picking up as like things that I did really well or things that I should maybe consider that have been much more prominent in my reflections these days.
I remember when we were there, one of the hottest areas, the topics we talked a lot about was around sales and marketing, like how to handle sales rejections, how to create our marketing funnels, about hiring, uh, all those things here. Like I want to maybe dive a little deeper, maybe some of the topics of what people expect. Because I know what we did here that I thought worked really well was we really co-created the agenda together. Right. It wasn't just me about my agenda, but I really took the time to have a session with everyone to co-create the agenda so that we're tailoring it to everyone's needs there.
Yeah, I agree. And what Diana's not mentioning that was a really great component of the mastermind was she also gave us a lot of her one-to-one time. And Diana's just extremely selfless. And so when she speaks with you, like she is fully vested in you. She helps you identify opportunities and brings out your best, like even in the smallest of conversations. And she did that with each and every one of us, like on this trip. I even went a couple days earlier and had some more dedicated time with Diana. It was just so enriching to hear more about her, what she was working on, but also in really helping me troubleshoot some things that I was working through. And she did that with every single participant. And then on top of it, to your point, Diana, we had the more deep dive topics that we had collaborated on, agreed. I think there were some that were like, you know what, we actually don't need that topic. Like we're okay for that, but this one might be worth going into more detail on. For me, like the sales part, the objection handling part was so helpful. Like I took so much of that back. And now, like whether it's me or my team that are on call, it's a different dynamic, like it's a different energy. And it's something that I don't think I would have had before. So just like things like that are very concrete and tangible have helped. But I love the themes that we developed. And I'm sure, Diana, with this group, you would be doing something very similar of choosing which topics would be most pertinent to have more of those deep dive sessions, and then which ones you could have more informally over dinners and lunches. Because there was a bit of everything, right? We didn't have
Yeah.
to have all as dedicated masterminds, but we ended up going into all different directions and still covering pretty much everything that we wanted to share in one way or another.
Absolutely. You almost made me cry there. Thank you. One of the beauty of an in-person mastermind, I would say, is those conversations, unexpected conversations that are not planned or structured, whether it's through meals like lunch or dinners, or through when you're at the spa, or when we went to do a wine tasting. I think we had like one of the most fun time when we did wine tasting together. So those unexpected conversations got to change our way of thinking about something there.
Yeah.
So Tiffany, just to wrap up, who is this for? Like who is this mastermind for? Like at what stage of their business? Who do you think this is for?
I think it's for someone who, has a business, not necessarily in the very early stages, but has a vision, has built a great foundation, is ready to really like unleash a different level of reflection, community, and type of direction that you want to take. It's for someone who has, big goals and doesn't want to feel alone in having to achieve those goals. It's for someone who can really benefit from an incredible community of who have experienced similar things, who will experience these things, who have different perspectives to bring, so that you can just literally condense the learnings that would otherwise take you years and just get that in like a fraction of the time. I think that's what we all do when we invest in ourselves, right? The goal is to save time so that we can get to our goals faster. Literally, in my case, Diana, it happened like a month after
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
back, that it was just like this turnaround moment in my business compared to how it started. And you know how the year started, it was a real challenge.
Yeah.
So I never would have thought that within like a 6-month time span, with the mastermind big kind of being within like month 4 of that time span, that it would have been so pivotal for me. But I think those are the elements that, if that sounds like you, if this is something that you want for yourself, that you have goals and you just want to be able to get there faster, do it in a lot of fun, a lot of community behind you, and get that wind in your sails, and do it in an immersive way where you don't have to dedicate hours every single week. It's like you get it all in, you come back loaded with inspiration and motivation and direction. That's who this is absolutely for. Like, you won't regret it. It's an amazing transformative experience. And I really mean what I said about Diana. Like, she's so vested in every participant. I'm sure a lot of you were really hand selected to be on this call today because it's not for everyone. It's
Mhm.
really for a certain person that fits a lot of this criteria. And I have a feeling it's all of you. I hope that helps.
No, absolutely. This was so good. If you have any questions, feel free to ask before Tiffany needs to go here. But yes, Salima, please ask.
One of the things I kind of have in my mind is I want to be able to learn from people who are ahead of me, so that you're continuing to grow. And so did you feel like that, Tiffany, that you had people who were ahead of you around you, so that would pull you up and you would learn from them in terms of like, if our goal is to get to $1 million business, you're working with people who are at 500,000, 750,000, you can hear how they got there and made those big leaps.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm looking to be surrounded by. So I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I definitely sensed a state of very much similar levels in our business. So like there weren't any newbies there. We were all around similar-ish income levels, some further ahead than others. But I think what's really interesting here, Salima, to your point, is the fact that people were further along in different things. And I think that's really interesting because income is one goal to have for
Mhm.
your business.
True.
But for me, like I got so many learnings from some of our fellow participants who were like masters in sales. And I was like, I think I've got my ways to go still in some of that facet. And even if my targets might be different or my sales might be different, like I'm still feel like they're further along in that type of skill set. Or one of our other participants was so good at building her brand and like this voice that's just so distinct online. And for me, LinkedIn's been a big priority for me this year. So like I felt I gained so much from her in how she's shown up and a lot of the insights that we were able to exchange, because I felt like she was kind of further along in that regard. So I think it's just perspective of how you view your particular business. And it's great to have the financial goals, but there's a lot of the other elements that will build up to that financial goal. And I think that's where the real wealth of this experience comes in, because you're being brought amongst each other that all have your own set of strengths and skill sets that are likely some further along than others in certain ways. And when you're benefiting from that, in addition to the income piece, it's where it all comes full circle.
I want to add on to this. So I do my best to curate a group where my belief is that everyone can, one, learn, but also can add value to the group. So when I look at the group, it could be, for example, someone's really good, like, for example, Tiffany, like amazing presence on Instagram, like, people can tap into her expertise on Instagram. Someone's great on LinkedIn. Someone's really good with their funnels. Someone who's like really good with speaking. Like for me, like I've done like Fortune 500 talks or for the UN or become a LinkedIn instructor. So we all have these expertise that we could tap into that made it even more enriching. So I'm really glad you asked this question, Salima, because I have been part of masterminds where I actually came back feeling that if I were to run my own mastermind, I also want to make sure in terms of the caliber of the people I bring together, at least we have that rich conversations that we can also elevate each other. I totally know where you're coming from because I have been part of a very expensive mastermind where I was the only one who had a 6-figure business. I totally understand where you're coming from. And I love how Tiff talked about it's like the different areas that we can add value to each other there.
I think there's something to be said about also being around people who aren't as crazy ahead, because like as much as we're learning from, and I'm part of like another mastermind with like 8-figure business owners from like all different industries. And it's been a very different type of learning experience. It's still very enriching, but I'm like, but what can I do like right now? Like I need like the stuff that like at my stage, that's like very realistic that I can bite into. I find that's really priceless. And sometimes when you're with these types of mentors or coaches that have done this like years ago, for sure, it's really insightful and whatnot. But it's like, okay, but like I don't have a 20-person team yet. Like I don't have every single process and system established yet. Like that's great. And I know that that's something I could aspire to, but it's like literally tomorrow when I go back home, like what do I need to focus on? And I think that's what was really important for me, where I walked away with like so many actual real time. Like I had my notebook, I have it right here next to me that I continue to refer to, because I'm like, yeah, these are things that I'm actually actioning on. So it's just kind of finding that balance. But that was definitely my experience that was really, really beneficial.
Well, thank you so much, Tiffany, for being here and taking time. I really want to tell you that, and I want to tell Share Business Group, if it wasn't because you visited me last year in November, this mastermind would not have happened. I mean, I had it in my dreams of I want to do this, but I thought it for years and years. But because you came to visit me at the spa while we were relaxing, I would share with you my crazy idea and dream. You're like, sign me up. And because of that one thing that you said to me that I'm in, that you empowered me to create something amazing and beautiful within a month there. So I want to thank you for that, for showing up in my life last year that made this into a reality there. So that's
You're
really
so
the power of
welcome.
having a group of like-minded women to encourage each other to dream bigger as well.
Yeah, you're so welcome, Diane. Honestly, I see the passion in you, and like it's coming from such a good place. All of us as the initial participants were like, we want to do it again next year. So I mean, if that helps anyone, it's like the type of thing that you start to crave, that you just want more of. Like you will not regret this experience. It's just amazing. And it starts here, and like the connections that you're going to be able to continue to build, and having Diane in your corner, who's just like the best cheerleader and master event planner. I mean, I'm just like blown away by how she can put something as complex together that seems so seamless. Like there wasn't even any type of stress in it at all. It's just, it blows my mind, and it's a real talent. So I hope you guys choose to move forward. I'm happy to have had a chance to come share my experience. If any of you have like direct questions for me, feel free to message me. But thanks for having me, Diana.
Amazing. Thank you so much.